Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Guys,
Thank
come
you very much.
on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
That's better.
You guys at back, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'd like to welcome all of you here this evening. And thank you very much for honoring my invitation here. I'd like to recognize the presence here of my work colleagues from Crossrail Anglia, former work colleagues from Crossrail, way back up to the London 2012 Olympics project, from Tala Oil in here, our friends from RFL, right there, one of the first guys to get onto the Crossrail train. I have our friends here also from Thames Tideway. And then in the room we also have Carmichael, represented here, a gentleman right there. Yes. They also brought us some goodies as well. So if at all you're looking at discussing your next career move, we have the right people here you can talk to. And then also for those I'm meeting for the very first time, I'm really grateful for you coming here today. I'm sure we shall interact more as the evening goes on. And then also my friends and family. I know you all very busy professionals. You could be on your way home now, or probably with family. So I'm really humbled by your presence here. Now, before we get into the formalities of the evening, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Patrick Opio, the Director of PM Excellence. Civil engineer by education with a master's degree from Imperial College. I have 17 years experience in construction and oil and gas sectors, of which spent about 14 years in project controls. I started off as a site engineer and eventually progressed into project controls. And I've also been fortunate to work on mega projects here in the UK. I worked on the Olympics project for 4 years. I worked on the Crossrail program, and I still work there. Been there for 6 years, and then also worked abroad in oil and gas as an expatriate for 3 years. So I've been around a bit, so I've quite a bit of experience. So today is PM Excellence launch.
Ooh.
Yes. I think I need to be toasting to this. So who are PM Excellence? It's a new company, and the services we provide construction planning training. That is the main service that we provide. I'm going to go into a lot more detail on construction planning training, and what exactly is covered in construction planning training. Project controls consultancy. Inevitably, when you do training, there will always be opportunities in consultancy. So the consultancy is really based around project controls. That is what I actually do, and it's something I have a lot of passion in. Also, project and planner employment. We are not an agency, but I believe apart from training, it's also important to actually support the trainees, particularly engineers that want to get into planning, supporting them. So you provide the training, but then also support them by recommending them to agencies so they can get employment within the planning sector. So it's trying to look at it from a holistic point of view, rather than just giving someone training and then they're like, okay, given me training, what's the next step? So it's kind of having that kind of relationship and having that kind of support in terms of supporting those that have actually trained in getting planning employment. So primarily the training is construction planning. Really the training, if you look at the industry at the moment, out there isn't really a course that teaches you how to undertake construction planning. And some companies have actually realized the need for it, and this is done in-house. But then it's actually not kind of public training out there, because the training that is mainly there is how to use software. Primarily looking at Primavera, Asta Pro project, MS project. And this training also delivered by mainly guys from the IT sector. So they're not really able to contextualize and relate to construction planning. So it's out of interactions with fellow work colleagues. You meet engineers, they're telling you, what, I want to get into planning, but I'm really struggling. How do I actually get into planning? So that's when I actually realized that there's actually a gap in the market and there's a gap in the industry in terms of providing very, very specific training that focuses on construction planning. So we don't teach software or the use of tools. Software is only a tool, or rather people call it normally pushing buttons, but really focusing on the nuts and bolts rather of actually undertaking construction planning. It's really looking at the governance, the systems, the processes and procedures, and also the training is based on really my experience of working on the Olympics project and Crosswell programs, because these have been very successful programs and they've set the benchmark for project controls. Because if you look at High Speed 2 or Thames Tidal project, the project controls and the planning systems are pretty much similar, because it's normally the same teams that move from one project to another project. Exactly, yes. So I mean, our friends on High Speed 2 I used to work with on the Olympics, again Thames Tideway that used to work on Crossrail. So the same people, so they'll normally adopt the same kind of systems and processes, because these are tried and proven. So the training is really based around best practice from these two programs. So and then the course is run over 2 days. We cover 21 topics. It's quite intense, and had a challenge really, because I have so much material out there that I've collected over the years, and I was trying to put together a training that is really relevant, contains the right content, but also fits in within the right duration. So I've been having a challenge in terms of how much material do I actually deliver in a 2-day course, and then what content should I be delivering within the time. So I've managed to put something together. So this course runs for 2 days. So what is this training for? It's mainly focused on engineers that want to get into construction planning. I come from the same background as well, so I believe I can relate to what the engineers actually looking out for in terms of getting into planning, and then also what the planning sector itself needs, particularly in terms of getting engineers into the planning sector, because there are many planners out there that actually just know how to push buttons, and becomes a challenge, because with planning it's important to actually understand not just pushing the buttons, but understanding the actual fundamentals of project controls, the actual engineering aspects. That's very, very important. So if you do have an engineering background, it really helps in terms of you providing the real value, asking the right questions, drawing out the right answers, and obviously it also helps you put together the right program in order to add the real value to the project and supporting the project management team. And then also for planners that want to, if you're a planner and you want to get a better understanding of planning, you're welcome. It's also for project management and commercial management, because to me, planning really sits at the heart of project delivery. Everything revolves around the program. Your program will reflect your scope of work that you have to undertake, to reflect your delivery strategy in terms of how you're going to do it. It will reflect the time scale in terms of when you're going to do it. Project management is change management, so the program is used to manage change. It's used for performance measurement. So and then it's used also for administering a contract, because the contract these days, mainly the NEC contract, is really program driven. So I believe it's important for someone to actually understand planning. So despite the fact that you may not be a planner, it's actually important that you actually understand the fundamentals of planning. In terms of topics, I don't want to go into so much detail, but I'll probably just touch on just briefly 1 or 2 sentences on each of the topics here in terms of what is covered. The first topic there, and first topic is on project controls, systems, process, and procedures. What I mainly focus on here is looking at an integrated approach, project controls. Now you're looking at your planning, you're looking at your cost management, you're looking at your risk management, you're looking at your change management, and then you also look at reporting. So it's really focusing on an integrated approach, rather than, the planners are doing their thing, the cost management team are doing their thing, and this is something that is quite common in projects. So that way you can't really benefit out of having an integrated approach to project control. So really that's what I cover in the first topic there. Second is the principles of project planning. This is really just the dry stuff, stuff that you will go and find, critical path analysis, calculations of float. And then the planning, project planning process, this is mainly drawn in terms of process. The Prince2 model is quite good in terms of detailing the planning process. So it's really based around the Prince2 model. And then what I also do is I mainly focus on how do you develop a program from scratch using the process that has been defined in the Prince2 model. So that is really what I focus on. There are schedule narrative, consents, use of milestones, obviously with programs. Programs are important tools, but most importantly, you need to provide the right information to senior management or senior leadership, so that they can make informed decisions based on the program. So really focus around that. Resource leveling and smoothing. I'm not really going to go into so much details there. The application of the NEC for contract. Now, projects these days are really, for you to have a successful project, you also need to have good contract administration or good contract management. And with the NEC contract, particularly if you're looking at public sector projects at the moment, government-funded projects, the NEC contract has become the de facto contract for delivering these projects. So what we look at there is look at the key clauses within the NEC 4 contract. The reason I've chosen the NEC 4 contract is because it's a very latest contract on the NEC. So really look at the key clauses within the NEC contract that you use to manage time, so that you minimize or you manage entitlement effectively, and then also minimize the delays that may arise. Then design management and process and tendering process. For one to put together a program, I think it's important for you to actually understand process, because what you're doing in putting together a program is about mapping process. And most of you here will agree with me, one of the challenges we have is actually managing design. Most projects are actually having issues around managing design. So the question here is, what can you actually do as a planner? First thing is, I think you need to actually understand the design process. And in terms of design process, I look at the RIBA and GRIP stages, the progressive assurance that is required at each of the gates. And then I think also when we're putting together design programs as planners, I think we tend to assume that you get all the design approvals on time. But at times, you may not get design approval on time, and that means you have to go through an iterative process once again. So it's about taking all these things into consideration, not thinking that things are just going to be honky dory, everything is going to be okay. But it's think about, okay, what if this happens then? I need to be thinking about the whole iterative process I have to go through. Then the tendering process and tender planning. Obviously, you just need to understand the actual tendering process as a planner. And with this again, you have to be working with the commercial team, working with the procurement team, just putting together a program that is robust so that you can support them. So that is what is covered on day one. On day two, we look at consents and permits and technical assurances. What challenges most projects is not things that are within your control. Because, for example, if you're looking at everything in place in the project, it's temp construction. It's very easy to go out there and you get guys who have 30 years experience and they come and do the job. But it's basically managing things that are outside your control, which is really, where you're looking at having to engage external stakeholders. So I look at the consents and permits really around the planning consents that are required. You're looking at the environmental, you're looking at traffic consents. All these have statutory requirements, and there are acts that actually that the project needs to comply with. So I look at this, the undertakings assurances. These are commitments to external stakeholders. Every project in the UK that goes through a parliamentary act or approval, looking at Crossrail project, the Olympics project, High Speed 2. These are all quite well published. I mean, just Crossrail itself has over 3,000 undertakings assurance, I think, isn't it? About over 3,000 undertakings assurance. And these are commitments to external stakeholders. I'll just give an example. When I was as the planner for the running tunnels, we had to notify Barbican Concert Hall 3 years before the TBM actually passed on board underneath. And the reason is because it takes them up to 3 years to book some of the performance, the opera singers. So it's really important that as a planner you think about these things, and this is really what I emphasize on this here. Then delay and disruption analysis. You'll always have delays, you'll always have disruptions in projects. So it's important that a planner does actually understand the different methods of delay and impact, delay and disruption analysis out there, and obviously the courts really favor more factual delay and disruption analysis methods. So really look at this. Quantitative risk analysis. Most times when we're putting together a program, you say, how long is it going to construct this wall, whatever? 10 days, pick a finger. But I think the thing is, without really thinking about, because every project has its own different circumstances, and even every aspect of work you undertake within construction. Just in the context of where it's actually being undertaken, it has different aspects that impact it, which are really the risks. So we look at the quantitative risk analysis, but it's not just the quantitative. We also look at the qualitative side of risk analysis, basically in terms of trying to provide a level of confidence in the duration and the program that you put together. And part of that is QSRA, which has become standard in most projects, particularly in rail. When you have possession planning, that's really key. Look at change management. Like I said earlier on, project management is change management. So it's about managing change. What was it before? What was it after? I mean, what impact does it have on critical path or extension of time in terms of impact on time? Does it have a commercial or monetary impact as well? Construction program. This year you're looking at what should be included in a construction program so that it aligns with the contract, it supports the delivery team, and then so that it's also robust. So I look at those different aspects within the construction, and which different elements should actually should be included in the construction program. Then testing and commissioning, that is key. Some of these projects, particularly if you're looking at Crossrail, the testing and commissioning phase takes years. So it's really important that you understand the testing and commissioning aspects of the project. Asset completion and handover is quite a key area, particularly when you have different contractors within the project. At times you may have to hand over one area after you've done your work to another area to another contractor. So you look at the asset completions and handover. Program quality and integrity, that is key. You need to have a robust program, and also there's a lot of emphasis now in the industry in terms of scores. There's software called Document Fuse that is used for all these assessments, and the project directors are normally keen to find out what is the actual score on the program, and the reason is it also has this very beautiful charts, and at times I think there's an English saying that if you don't have anything to say, you say it in color. So and then we look at earned value management. The principles of earned value management are quite straightforward. I mean, everyone will agree with me. But I think the key thing with earned value management, at least for me, from my own experience, is really around agreeing on how you're going to measure the performance, and then also the earnings methodology. So I'm not going into it. I'm really not going to go into details. But in terms of earned value management, for me, I think from my own experience, that is what is really key. The principles are very straightforward, but it's the actual implementation of earned value that is a challenge. So we look into that. Project controls reporting, again, whatever you do as project controls professionals, you have to produce reports. Those reports have to be basically produce reports for senior management. So it's important that you put together reports that are very robust and reflect the true status of the project. Then for me, my favorite is really around soft skills are required by a planner. As planners, we need to take responsibility and accountability for time if you're managing the program. If you're looking at the commercial guys, the QSAs, they normally own the money. So planners, we also need to own the time, So you put together a program, you need to know where you're allocating this time. So you need to be questioning, how is this time allocated? And obviously, you also need to be forecasting forward. So I think we need to be taking a very proactive approach as planners in terms of actually owning the time. So we take the time, like the time is actually a resource, similar to how the commercial team takes the money as a resource. So I think we need to be changing the approach, planning, and then also things like, you don't put together a program just in isolation, but I think it's actually how you engage the teams. Because as planners, you may not have all the technical experience. I mean, personally, I didn't. I mean, I went into tunneling. I'd never done tunneling before. I went to oil and gas. Never done oil and gas before. But it's about having the right kind of appreciation for what you actually need to put together a program. So and that involves how you communicate, how you engage the teams, and most importantly, the teams need to take ownership of the program. For me, I've always believed, I do not just put together a program and I own it. No, it's the teams. If someone comes to me and tells me, no, but this is not right, but I'm like, but wait a minute, you're the one who told me this. So I believe it's really, really important that that the planners actually work with the teams to actually, so that they take ownership of the program. So in summary, really, that is what is included in the training. It's quite a lot to cover over 2 days, but I think I've tried to cover the fundamentals, and I believe if you go through this kind of training, it really prepares you for the real for the real construction planning out there, because I've looked at so many books and it's all academics. You can just go and Google some of this stuff, but it's really understanding how planning should be done, and I think I've tried to relate to my own experience and also just draw on the experience of and best practice from the Olympics and across our programs. Thank you. I would like to invite some questions.